In this video, I'm going to discuss why it is so much harder for young Singaporeans to buy a home today. So buying a home used to be a simple passage. You graduate, get a job, apply for a BTO flat with your partner, and several years later, you have a home. But today, it feels like you need to win a lottery just to afford your own place. But why is it so much harder now? Let's discuss the 10 reasons why the Singaporean dream of home ownership feels like a climb up a very steep mountain. The first reason is prices are growing faster than our salaries. While our salaries go up by a few percent every year, property prices have been sprinting. For example, in the past 12 months, HDB resale prices have hit record highs for over 20 consecutive quarters. Even if you check the social media or check the news, you've probably seen another news about HDB resale flat sold for like 1.4 million, 1.6 million, etc. So for many young Singaporeans nowadays, these headlines don't feel like success stories, but they feel like a door slamming shut. So think of it this way. If you save $1,000 every month, you could have saved $12,000 a year. But in that same year, the price of a four-room resale flat in a popular area could easily jump by $40,000 or even $60,000 or even more. You aren't just running. You are running on a treadmill that is moving faster than you can keep up. This price-to-income gap means that young couples are forced to compromise either by moving to a much further remote locations or by staying with parents much longer than they plan, or delay their marriage altogether. And I do believe that is one reason why we see low fertility rate in Singapore nowadays, unfortunately. And then the second reason is the wait to get a home is much longer and the rules are stricter. So back in the 60s or 70s, a BTO is a much shorter wait. Today, despite the government's best effort to speed things up, many projects still take 4 to 5 years. For a couple in their late 20s, waiting half a decade for a house means delaying marriage, delaying starting a family, and living in a state of limbo. Furthermore, the new Prime and Plus classifications means that many of the most desirable flats now come with a 10-year MOP. This is a massive commitment. If you buy a Prime flat, and your age is 30, you can't sell it until you're like 45 plus if you consider the construction time as well. If your family grows or your workplace moves to the other side of the island, you are kind of locked in. And then the third reason is the lottery effect is fading and it is harder to upgrade. So in the past, many saw a BTO as a golden ticket. You buy it cheap, wait for 5 years, and then sell it, and be able to profit maybe like at least $200,000 and then upgrade to a private condo. But then nowadays, that path is much more difficult. Under the new Plus and Prime models, the government implements a subsidy recovery, meaning they will claw back a percentage of the sale price. And unfortunately, we even see the clawback rate increasing from one launch to another. So we're talking about 9 to 14% nowadays, but who knows, in the future it's probably like 20+% or even 30+%, who knows. The intention is good, which is the government trying to keep things fair. But then again, combined with the 10-year wait, the profit that you make might not even cover the rising cost of a condo, which has moved even further out of reach. For the younger generation, your first home is now more of a forever home than a stepping stone, unfortunately. Reason number 4 is borrowing money is more expensive. We are no longer in the era of almost free money. The interest rates for bank loans are significantly higher than the 1 to 2% we saw several years ago. Even for HDB loan, while stable at 2.6%, this still feels heavy because of the loan to value or LTV limit was slashed from 80% to 75% in late 2024. This means for a $600,000 flat, now you need to find $150,000 for the down payment. If you don't have enough in your CPF ordinary account, that money has to come from your wallet in a form of cash savings. For most couples in their 20s, finding $150,000 is very difficult unless your parents are like very rich. And reason number 5 is difficulty in getting finances for gig economy worker. So over the years, the way we work has changed, but unfortunately, the way banks think hasn't. More young Singaporeans are now freelancers, content creators, or private hire drivers. While the income can be okay, but the banks are still seeing this variable income as risky. So their standard practice is to apply like a 30% haircut to your income. So for example, if you earn $6,000 as a freelancer, the bank assesses you as if you only earn $4,200. This dramatically reduces the loan amount you can get. While your peers with stable office jobs can get the green light, gig workers often find themselves unable to borrow enough to cover the price of a resale flat. And then reason number 6, I would say disadvantages for singles. So if you are single, unfortunately, I think the system will feel like it's against you in a way. You generally have to wait until you are 35 years old to apply for an HDB. Of course, there are several exceptions. So for example, if you are orphan, etc. But in general, the limit is 35 years old. And by the time you hit 35, you have watched prices rise over a decade or even more. So even when you have reached that age, you are restricted to 2-room flexi BTO units. If you want a 3-room or 4-room flat because you work from home or you want more space, you are forced into the resale market. There you have compete with dual income couples who have 2 sets of CPF and 2 salaries to outbid you. So for a single person, paying a $500,000 resale flat on a single income is a massive financial burden. And this is not to mention the fact that singles have more limited units allocated for them in BTO. That's why every time there's a BTO application rate being announced, we can see that the application rate for singles are very competitive, even in like remote area. But having said that, I do acknowledge that recently we've seen the government allocate more 2-room flexi for singles. So hopefully this trend can keep up in the future as well. And then reason number 7 would be high hidden costs in terms of renovation and maintenance. So the cost for a home is definitely not just the flat alone, right? So for example, renovation costs have spiked by nearly 50% in the last decade. And then people say, oh, it's due to labor shortages or more expensive raw materials. But then again, if you think about it, at the end of the day, a business is a business, right? So there's also a factor where, those businesses wants to make more money as well. So last year, a basic no-frills renovation for a 4-room flat can easily cost between $55,000 or even $70,000 and more. If you buy an older resale flat, you might even have to spend more just to hack old tiles and redo the wiring. When you add up the high purchase price, the 25% down payment, and let's say a $60,000 renovation bill, many young people end up becoming house poor, meaning they have a beautiful home but can't afford to save for their retirement. And then reason number 8 would probably be the spillover from private property prices. So if we think about property market in Singapore, it's not just HDB, right? So in recent years, private condo prices have stayed incredibly high, with new launches often starting at like $2,500 or even $3,000 per square feet. When private condos become too expensive, the people who would usually buy them, such as high-earning young professionals, don't just stop buying homes. They quote-unquote downgrade their expectations and buy high-end HDB resale flats instead. This spillover demand creates intense competition for 4-room and 5-room resale flats, driving prices up for everyone else. If let's say a couple can't afford a $2 million condo, they might still be able to pay for like $1.1 million for a beautiful resale HDB flat, but then this will price out the average young couple. Reason number 9 is intergenerational wealth transfer. We are starting to see a wealth gap even among young people. Some Gen Zs and millennials have parents who benefited from the property boom back in the 80s and 90s. These parents are now helping their children by providing the cash for a down payment or topping up their CPF. This creates a two-tier market. If you are a young couple relying purely on your own savings, you are competing against other young couples who have rich parents, which basically donated at least like $100,000 gift. So this mom and dad effect keeps resale prices continue to increase even when interest rates are high, because a segment of buyers is not affected by the borrowing limits. And then reason number 10 is the 15-month wait out rule side effects. So to cool the market, the government previously introduced a rule where private property owners must wait for at least 15 months after selling their home before they can buy a non-subsidized HDB resale flat. While this was meant to stop rich sellers from outbidding young families, it had a side effect. Many of these downgraders are now choosing to rent for 15 months or more, which keeps the rental market expensive, and the indirect effect is that it is making it harder for young couples to save while waiting for their BTO and keeps the demand for older HDB flats high. But now the question is, what can the government do to help young Singaporeans to buy a home? If you want to know the answer, check out my other videos in this channel, exclusive for members only. To support my work, you can give a one-time tip by pressing the thanks button, pick the amount that you want, and click buy and send. Or you can also press the join button for exclusive contents and monthly membership. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!